Hello again. We're doing angles and angle measures here, and basically it's just a very good fundamental way to think about angles, and we're going to tie that into radians. And when we're working with trigonometry, what you want to do in order to create yourself an angle or look at an angle is create yourself an x and a y axis, same kind of graphing thing. But we're not actually going to be plotting points on our x-y axis, we're just going to be looking at it in terms of angles. And there's a few things that you need to know about an angle. This little point right here, where it starts, where both sides are connected, is called the vertex. This green line right here, that's with the brown line, is called the initial side. And the initial side of an angle always starts right here, on the positive aspect of the x-axis. That's where the initial always starts. And then this green line here, the direction it's going in, whether it's going counterclockwise or clockwise, it's called the terminal side. Terminal side, initial side, and the vertex. Now, something to consider to try to help you remember it. Initial means beginning, or first, so we'll start here. Terminal is where we're going, which terminal at the airport, so wherever you're going to is the terminal side. And the vertex is what connects it. Something really important to understand as well is determining whether the angle goes counterclockwise or clockwise, i.e. Positive or negative. Now I actually don't know if the angle went this way, like this, or this way. So what I need is some sort of map, some kind of compass, a direction. I'll go ahead and I'll put that down right now. What it's basically saying is it started here and it went like this. That's what the arrow means. If it went the other way, the arrow would go like this and point like that. And I'll go ahead and show you a similar example. Hopefully that'll make sense. Go ahead and I write my initial side. I'll write my I'll put in my vertex. Here's my terminal side. And I will go like this. That means it's a negative angle. If it goes this way, it's positive. If it goes this way, it's negative. Now, if I had to make an estimation of how big the angle is, I'd have to say it's 135 degrees. And I'd have to say this one's negative 135 degrees. So if you want to know what it is, this one's 135 degrees. And this one goes negative 135 degrees. What's really interesting is where some of the important angle measures are placed. For instance, if they have a shared value, if the terminal and the initial side are shared, which means the initial's here and the terminal's here, and the terminal didn't go anywhere, it didn't go counterclockwise positive or it didn't go clockwise negative, it would be at 0 degrees. So right here, if the angle doesn't move, it's at 0 degrees. Now, if the initial side is here and the terminal side is here, and it went like this, then it's at 90 degrees. I'm not saying that the value is 90 degrees, I'm saying that the angle is 90 degrees, because when we end up talking about sine and cosine in a unit circle, it's going to seem a little confusing. So right here, if the initial and the terminal were here, it'd be at 0 degrees. If the terminal was here, it'd be at 90 degrees. If it were here, it would be at 180 degrees. If it were here, going counterclockwise, it'd be 270 degrees. And if it went full circle, it'd be 360 degrees. I suppose anybody who's a fan of basketball can relate to that, a 360 dunk. Basically somebody starts here and goes back to where they started. That's where the saying, they did a complete 180 comes into play. They start here and they end up on the opposite side, 180, right there. Okay, anyways, if we're going this way though, then we're going negative. I'm not saying that it's negative, I'm saying that the direction of where it's going is negative, because technically this could be, well, I'll go ahead and explain. If the initial is here and it goes up to here, you're at negative 90 degrees. But notice that negative 90 degrees is the same as 270, and that's something that tricks students a lot. Now let's say we're going in this direction, we went negative 135 degrees here, okay. Fine. Now let's say we kept going clockwise and we ended here, we'd be at negative 180 degrees. But negative 180 degrees is the same thing as 180 degrees in terms of the placement of where the terminal side is. If we went like this all the way there, we'd be at negative 270 degrees. which is the same thing as 90 degrees in terms of placement of the terminal side. And if we went full circle this way, we'd be at negative 360 degrees, which is really cool. The thing that gets students though is they say, okay, I figured it out from 0 to 360, I'm good to go. No, not necessarily, and I'll give you an example where I'll draw a terminal side and we'll go positive, because I just think positive is a lot easier. And let's say that, well, I gotta write my vertex first. I want to go counterclockwise, which is positive, and I go like this. And then I stop for a second, and then it's 270. Like, okay, but I wasn't done. I go like this. And then I stop, right there. And that's where my terminal side ends up. And I ask my students, how far does it go? And some of them are puzzled, they're a little muddled. I say, okay, calm down. Where is this? They say, negative 270, for those who are trying to be smart. And then I say, no, where is it? They say, oh, that's at 90 degrees. I'm like, good. Now keep that in mind. So if we go once full circle, we went 360 degrees. So when we went once, we went 360 degrees, but we went again, we go another 360 degrees. So we went once, 360, go twice, 360, and we went an extra 90 degrees there. So in that case, this angle measure happens to be 720, 810 degrees. And somebody says, is that possible? I'm like, yeah, when I play basketball, I usually do 810 dunks. Nobody really cares. It's a bad joke anyways. But that's introduction into angles. If you're going counterclockwise, it's positive. If you're going clockwise, it's negative. And you can always go in multiple rotations. It doesn't have to stop at one rotation. You're not limited by 360. You can keep going. And you're not limited by negative 360 either, which is really cool. What I tell my students to memorize, though, to make it a little bit easier on them, this whole thing, I say, okay, that's 0 degrees, 90 degrees, 180, 270. If you remember that, you're not so bad. The rest of it comes in time. But if you remember 0, 90, 180, 270, and then the theory just starts to come into play, it's not so bad. With that said, we're going to do some more on this, and we're going to tie it into trig functions and all that good stuff. But for right now, have a good day. Good.